CSI Cooking Specialty Ingredients, squash. This educational video for the Hospitality Education Foundation of Georgia has been made possible by a grant from the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program at the U.S. Department of Agriculture and funding from U.S. Foods and Dexter Russell. In CSI Squash, Chef Heather Holbert will be showing us different techniques to cook squash. Chef, how do we begin?
Let's get our mise en place and start cooking.
All right. So, Chef, what are we going to do here?
You are going to actually show how to bake and cook with these squashes. And these are all winter squashes. It'll be available all through winter. So we're going to show how to cook with them and bake with them and come up with a couple of different dishes.
Great. We've got a spaghetti squash, a butternut squash, and an acorn squash. So, which one should we start with?
Let's start with the spaghetti squash. It's not as sweet as the butternut or the acorn squash. I like to use different herbs and spices. I go in at the center and then I work my way out. Start at the center again.
I suppose that works.
And then
okay.
And then you can
cut
the rest of it. And so with the spaghetti squash, so now you have the pulp with the seeds. Go ahead and scrape it out with a spoon. I don't use the seeds of the spaghetti squash. So we're going to discard that along with the pulp. It's a squash that kind of reminds me of summer squash. It has the flavor of yellow squash and zucchini. It has a really, really mild flavor to it. So I think herbs and spices blend really well and it enhances the flavor. So we're gonna do that. I love spaghetti squash, and I know I've seen people actually use the spaghetti squash as the pasta or the spaghetti and make a marinara sauce to go with it or a salsa to go with it. So great. So we're going to put that on a sheet pan, and I'm going to have you drizzle some olive oil. So now you're going to put that into the oven. It's going to take about half an hour to bake.
Chef, now we have our spaghetti squash, and what are we going to do with it?
We're going to saute it, and it's just a very, very simple saute. Go ahead and take the fork, and you're going to scrape it out lengthwise, yep. And you'll see how it shreds. You see that?
Yeah.
Isn't that cool? So go ahead and, hence the reason why they call it spaghetti squash.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
The mystery of life.
So this is really the easiest way to try to take all the meat out is by roasting it and then just taking a fork and really just kind of almost like shredding it. And it'll come out. All right, so let's go ahead and start heating up the pan. We're gonna sweat
the onions.
Onions with a little bit of olive oil. And again, you can use shallots. You can replace it with leeks or garlic, just to kind of go with the spaghetti theme. We've got some basil and some Italian parsley that we're going to season it with. But I have actually seen people eat it with spaghetti sauce or marinara on top. You can actually make it into a gratin as well, do a nice heavy cream sauce and top it with some breadcrumbs, and it's delicious. Or just do a nice saute with some peppers, with some tomatoes, zucchini, and you can actually do like a primavera with it.
It's like a vegetarian or vegan almost pasta.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you go ahead if you want to add the spaghetti squash in there. You want to add some salt and pepper. Now remember, it's already been cooked. It's been roasted, so it really doesn't need to cook for a long period. Otherwise it'll get mushy. So give that a stir, and then I'm going to have you deglaze it with the chicken stock, just a little bit. And then we'll just toss in the herbs and you're finished. Let's taste this. I'm excited. I want to see what you think. Mmm.
That's
good. Good. That's really good.
I can see where you'd put the sauces on and you can get a different flavor out of it.
Yeah, and that basil and the Italian parsley just really adds to it. That's awesome. Let's go ahead and dish that up. And when you put it on the plate, kind of mound it and then twist it. Yeah, that kind of cleans it up a little bit. Yep. So the butternut squash, the easiest way is to cut the ends. Cut it in half lengthwise. And as you can see, it has this beautiful, beautiful, vibrant orange color to it. Scrape out the seeds. And this is where you can save the seeds, rinse it out, dry it out, and then toast it with olive oil and some salt and pepper. And you can make a nice garnish. We're gonna roast one.
Okay.
Because again, this works great if you want to just drizzle it with olive oil, salt and pepper, roast it in the oven, and then you literally scrape out the pulp, and we're actually gonna make a puree. And then with the other, I'm gonna have you actually peel it, and we're gonna dice it because we're gonna saute it.
Okay.
So go ahead if you want to peel, and you'll just have to see. You may, depending on how thick the skin is, you can either peel it or you may just need to take your chef's knife and just peel it. People do a butternut squash ravioli and serve it with like a sage walnut butter sauce.
That sounds good.
Which is very, very popular. You can certainly, again, pumpkin is also in the squash family, so you can do the exact same thing as far as cooking technique with pumpkins. You just need to make sure that you get the right type of pumpkin that's for eating versus one that's a decoration. So go ahead,
Just dice it up.
do a nice like meat. If you want to do like a medium or large dice, you can. Again, make sure your cuts are uniform. So I'm going to have you do a sauté version, and it's going to be more on the savory side.
Okay.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the roasted butternut squash, and I'm going to actually have you puree it, and we're going to make it slightly sweeter.
All right.
Sweat the onions with a little bit of olive oil, and of course you can certainly use butter in this. And I actually like to use a mixture of both olive oil and butter. And so again, it's one of those vegetables that really you can add any spice and it really goes with anything. You can add your butternut squash. And this is where you can chop up, if you wanted to chop up some pumpkin, you can chop up the acorn squash. You're going to just go ahead and add a little bit of salt. Just a little bit. Go ahead and just add a little bit of that and deglaze it. And all the chicken stock has reduced. So now you're left with kind of just a glazed butternut squash.
Looks good.
It does look good. You want to taste it? Here, I'll let you taste that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good. What we're going to do is we're going to take the roasted butternut squash, and I'm going to actually have you puree it, and we're going to make it slightly sweeter. And spoon out the roasted butternut squash, and it should be nice and tender. Should easily just come right out. The roasted butternut squash. And all you seasoned it was just salt and olive oil, right?
And then we roasted it. 350.
And then just add just a drop or two of the cream.
Like that?
Yes. And then add just a little bit of honey, just to sweeten it up, just a little bit more, but not much. That's good. And add just a pinch of salt. And I know we have some pepper, and go ahead and add a little bit of pepper in there. Because remember, this is not a sweet dish, it's savory. And this is where I love to make this with cumin, toasted cumin. You can add some fennel in there. I like to add some paprika and chili powder and make it slightly spicy.
What's the look we're going for?
Almost like mashed potato consistency. All right, so I think that's ready to go. If you want to stir that all around, and then go ahead and maybe just put a pall right here, and then just kind of spread your spoon. Yeah, perfect.
Great.
Great. So now you have butternut squash 2 ways.
Mm-hmm.
Woo, woo. You're going to split it in half. Yeah. All right, good. And again, the same thing. You can save the seeds, wash it out, dry it, and then toast it. And it's good over soups. It's actually really good over salads.
The toasted seeds?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Or if you are if you're doing a saute, and then just at the very end, toss in your toasted seeds. Then you're going to drizzle it with some olive oil. And this is one of those squash where you can actually add some brown sugar, or you can add some honey, some sort of natural sweetener, just to bring out the sweetness, and it will actually give it a nice caramelization as it's roasting. So go ahead and drizzle that with olive oil, add a little salt, and we'll start roasting those off.
So now we're going to be working with our acorn squash.
Yes, we're going to show how you can actually puree it and also make it into like a mashed acorn squash instead of having mashed potatoes. So go ahead and scrape all the meat out.
Put in some cream.
Yes. Perfect. And maybe a little bit of olive oil and some salt. And a pinch of honey. And this is where you can actually do a mixture too of the butternut and the acorn squash too, if you wanted. Let's taste it.
It's definitely a different flavor.
I love that too. Got mashed acorn squash. Yeah. Thank you for watching CSI.
I hope the techniques that we showed you today are going to help you in your classes, your competitions, and your kitchens at home.